National Public Radio, or NPR, says it's quitting Twitter. The U.S. not-for-profit news organization says it's because of how the social media site under Elon Musk has labeled it. Last week, Twitter labeled NPR's main account, quote, state-affiliated media. And this week, that was changed to, quote, government-funded media. In a statement, NPR says its accounts will no longer be active on Twitter because, quote, we are not putting our journalism on platforms that have demonstrated an interest in undermining our credibility and the public's understanding of our editorial independence. NPR does get federal funding through grants and from the U.S. Corporation for Public Broadcasting, but the company says that amounts to less than 1% of its annual operating budget. For more on this, we've reached John Wibby. He worked as a consultant on Twitter's misinformation and content moderation team for several years and worked on the NPR radio show On Point. Now he teaches media and technology at Northeastern University. John, nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us. What are your thoughts on NPR's decision to leave Twitter after this labeling?
Well, good to see you again. I think this is it's a really unfortunate circumstance. You mentioned my various affiliations, and I feel like it's two old friends in a big fist fight right now. I don't think it's good for American democracy. I think NPR is taking a principled stand. I don't think that's wrong. I do hope that they would, unsuspend and rejoin the platform. Were the senior leadership at Twitter, Elon Musk, to change their tune. And I think there's some talk that label may change yet again. I think if Musk were going to properly label it, it would be something like publicly, privately, and philanthropically funded. But at that point, it sort of loses its meaning as a label, which may be actually a good thing. I guess I would support NPR's principled stand, but I do hope that that sort of tempers calm down, that Twitter rethinks its decision, and that NPR rejoins.
So NPR is, in fact, partially government funded. So as someone who consulted on Twitter's misinformation and content moderation strategy, what are your thoughts on this labeling approach?
Well, labeling is something that has risen as a content moderation tool over the past several years as a kind of happy medium between outright suspending accounts or downranking content. It was used heavily during COVID to try to mitigate some of the mis and disinformation that was out there. I think that labeling things properly can be a very helpful cue to information consumers and can help them make more knowledgeable decisions about whether to share something. So I'm actually a big fan of the information companies, the social media companies, applying labels where appropriate. There's been a long-running debate about how exactly to deal with truly state-affiliated media entities, such as RT in Russia or Xinhua or CCTV in China. And then how to have sort of shades of gray for entities like the BBC or NPR. That's been a pretty good debate, but I don't think that Musk came down in the right way on how to properly label such an entity, if at all.
And you said earlier that you think this is bad for democracy. Why do you think that?
Well, I think our country right now is struggling with a whole variety of issues. And I think the erosion of trust with news institutions is part of a larger pattern driven by polarization, driven by inequality, driven by bad-intentioned actors taking advantage of some of the weaknesses and the fractures in American democracy. And I think, responsible leaders need to support institutions like NPR. By the way, the listenership data would suggest that there are a lot of conservatives who actually listen to their public radio stations in conservative-leaning states. It is an institution that provides a shared reality for a democracy that I think is in deep trouble right now. And so, seeing a major institution sort of run down reputationally and kind of trolled through social media, through this kind of thing, I think it's just not a good thing for the country. And I hope it would be reconsidered.
Do you think we could see another platform dominate Twitter in the sphere?
if you're asking if I think Twitter could ultimately be replaced, it still has an immense amount of power as a kind of media platform. I mean, so many politicians and celebrities and others, have huge megaphones and huge voices there. I think it will take time. If Twitter is to be supplanted and replaced, it will take time for that to happen. Remember, it's taken many years, more than a decade, to build up a massive monthly active user base, which the last I checked was over 200 million. These platforms, I think, can decline, but it doesn't happen overnight. And it may be that if Musk actually relinquishes some control over the company and appoints an independent CEO, as he sort of indicated he would, that the ship could be righted, and that perhaps Twitter could even grow in the years ahead. At the same time, the more negative sort of events, the more the brand of Twitter takes a reputational hit. I think it's going to erode the influential user base, and I think it could become a hollow shell. But it will take a few years at least for that to happen.
John, thank you. John Wibby is an assistant professor in media and technology at Northeastern University. We reached him in Boston this afternoon.